Hey, what's going on, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in for another edition of Passion and Precision podcast with myself and Jory. I mean, look, if this is your first time coming in, we definitely appreciate you. Hopefully, you stick around and jump in the conversation with us in the comment section. I mean, if you've been here before, you already know we love that interaction from you guys. But we have a lot to talk about. You know, last week we did basically all NFL. We actually have some NBA to talk tonight, which uh, I mean, it's being interesting. You know, big star in the league got a new extension, so Jordan and I will definitely talk about that. And every year, NBA fans look out for the City Connect jerseys. They released this year's versions. We'll give you our thoughts on those as well, and then do our normal, NFL whip around week two, look ahead to week three, make our picks and everything. So before we get into all that, Jory, how are you doing tonight?
I'm okay. I'm a little tired, but it's been a busy day. It's been a long day, so can't lie.
Yeah,
I'm all right.
all right, I understand. Yeah, that's good. It's good to see you. Good to do another show with you. So let's go ahead and jump into our first topic here. So Joel Embiid got a new contract, got an extension. So he got a 3-year, $193 million extension, which basically takes his current contract to 5 years, 301 million. So if you're a Sixers fan, I'm assuming that this is what you wanted. He's locked up. You got to figure that's probably going to be probably take him most of his career. We know he's had the injury history and everything like that. Uh, so I so I guess we'll start with this. What are your initial thoughts with the extension? Do you think it's a great move from Philly? Like when you first saw it, what was the first thing that came to your mind?
Great. Good for them. They needed to pay him now rather than in the future if
Mhm.
they were going to extend him. It's better to do it now than in the future. Um, Considering that and the way the moves that they've done to build this team around him, they have no excuse. There is no excuse for this team anymore to get past the second round of the playoffs. That's the bare minimum. They
Mhm.
have no excuse.
Yeah, I mean, especially bringing in Paul George. Like you don't bring him in for this team to not do much better than they have so far with Joel Embiid's tenure in Philly. We understand that they've tried to put several guys next to him. Ben Simmons and uh, James Harden. Guys like that hasn't worked out. So they're hoping with the development of Tyrese Maxey and now Paul George that maybe they can make some noise. Obviously, it's going to be difficult as well with defending champions and the Celtics in their division. You also have the Knicks that have a lot of promise going into next season. Um, I mean, after that, I feel like it's definitely a jumbled up kind of mess. You get the Bucks. How did they come back off of last year? So I mean, like looking at them, do you think they are the second best team in the East right now?
On paper,
Okay, I can agree with that.
but I don't know. Like, I have to see how it's gonna gel first, because it might take a little bit. It might take like 10 games for me to see how well it's gonna work. So they're the second best on paper.
Okay. I mean, I feel like the conversation will probably be between them. I know everybody's loving the Knicks really, uh, especially coming off of last year. The Bucks, like I said, you got Giannis. I feel like you're always kind of in that conversation. You have Cleveland, who I mean, I don't know how much you believe in them. I'm not the biggest Donovan Mitchell guy, especially when it comes to the playoffs. I feel like Joel Embiid have similar shortcomings in terms of the playoffs, and getting their teams to that destination that they want. But they're a talented team as well. So you have to give them that. But I, I don't know. Like 5 years of Joel Embiid, I feel like I agree with you. If you're Philly, why wouldn't you do it? Like, what would you be? What would be your alternative to it? So I guess the last
Exactly.
for this one would be so in the 5 year span, obviously starting with this upcoming season, do you see Joel Embiid winning a title?
Because Philly is one of those teams where I'm gonna have to see it to believe it. So I really don't. So I'm gonna stick to my guns. No, until they show me wrong. Until they actually get there. No.
Yeah, I agree. Like I find it hard to think that in 5 years, the next 5 years, where you do have the Knicks team coming up, you have the Celtics who you feel like will probably be sticking around. Cleveland. We already know about Miami. They can put rosters together, even though this current one may look a lot different in a couple of years, but they have guys in the front office who know how to bring talent in. I don't know if I see it. Also, I don't know necessarily what Joel Embiid will look like in 5 years because as a big man who's as he's dealt with lower body injuries, they usually don't get better with the older that you get.
Mm-mm.
So there could come a point over the course of this contract where he's a more limited player. And I think with the way Philly kind of structured itself, if he is, like 70, 60% of what he is right now, I don't know if they would put the pieces around him or play a style around him that I could see them winning a title. So this might be something that they may have to do it like in the next 2 years. Otherwise, it probably won't happen over the 5 years of his deal.
Oh, they're in a window because they put the pieces together. You don't get Paul George without putting yourself in a win now window.
Yeah,
You don't do that and sign all these
right.
people to to these contracts. You don't do that and not be win now. So
Exactly.
within the next 3 years, if they don't win anything, it's probably not going to happen because they're going to start having to blow up the team.
Yeah. Okay. Last question, and then we'll move on from Joel Embiid. Is this the last deal of his career? And second part, does he finish his career in Philly?
It depends on what he looked like in year 4 of that contract. Like if he's clearly not the same
Mm-hmm.
and he's just bad, yeah, it might be his last contract. But if he's healthy and for whatever reason he can decide to stay healthy, well, not decide, you know what I'm saying. If he can
Yeah.
stay healthy and decide not to keep falling on the floor unnecessarily, that's a thing I have with him. Like, you are too big for that. Stay upright, bro. Like,
Yeah. I that's yeah, I agree with you. It's one of the weird things when watching him play is that he kind of throws himself down a lot. And a lot of times that's when he ends up hurting himself. He is a big body and he does play on the interior as well as the perimeter. I do wonder as he gets older, does he become more perimeter oriented because he knows he can operate out there? Because I feel like even when he was young, like even up to this point in his career, I've seen at times where I think he drifts to the 3 point line a little bit too much. And I wonder if that might become more of a problem the older he gets. And
I mean, he's
maybe that's
already
where,
soft.
yeah, I mean, against certain players, others he likes to try to dominate them, usually lesser guys. But I mean, I've seen enough of he and Al Horford going at it, or he and even like Marcus Smart, where they frustrate him enough that it kind of takes him off his game. And I just wonder about that. Also, Philly's offense. I do think they should probably play through Maxi a little bit more. but they still kind of seem Joel Embiid centric, and that might be the biggest thing, even outside of Joel Embiid's health, that probably keeps them from winning a title, is that they still try to be Embiid number one, and these other guys trying to play off of him. I don't think that's the best way for them to win, especially in this NBA.
Yeah, you build around them, but you don't have to necessarily play off of them.
Right. Yeah. Guess that's what I was probably going for. All right. Well, we'll see. Obviously, as we get closer to the NBA season, we'll definitely pay a lot more attention to what Embiid and the Sixers are doing. But let's go to our next topic: the City Connect jerseys. We see these every year. This is, the NBA's way to kind of localize the jerseys and usually call out something that's big within that community. Gives you a nice little fresh design for fans to go out and buy. So these are the 24-25 versions out there. I mean, what do you think about them on the grand scheme?
Half of them are really ugly. I will say
Okay.
that. I'm not gonna sit here and lie about that. The
Mm-hmm.
Hawks one I would wear. I looked at the Celtics ones and I see the plot. I see it. I don't think it was
Mm-hmm.
executed very well. And to the person who decided to say that's not even the right color green, it's an alternate color jersey, you idiot. It's not supposed to be the right color green. I mean, come
Right.
on. Let's be a little informed here.
Right.
The Bulls is nice as well. I'm actually getting my first good glimpse at them now. The
Mm-hmm.
Clippers is ugly. I'm not wearing anything with the Clippers on it anyway. That's
Right.
just how we roll here. The Sixers is ugly. I don't know what type of writing that is. Um, New Orleans, I get it. That purple don't match with that green. It
Okay.
looks a little clownish. I mean, they're decent. Some of them are just poorly executed ideas.
Mm-hmm. I think the Sixers one, I think that calls back to the old arena they used to play in. I'm trying to think what it was. Like the Spectrum or something. I mean, if there is a Sixers fan in here, they would probably. I think it was the Spectrum. I think that color scheme on the, like, below the arm going down the side, I believe that was part of the court or something, and I think that lettering was how it used to be. So I think it's a callback to that.
It's
I agree
ugly,
with
and
you. Some of them, right? I agree with you. Like, some of them look better than others.
question.
Like the
What is
Memphis
that?
one. Oh, which one?
The one with the blue writing, the red one, under the cream one, all the way to the left. What is that?
All the way to the left, the blue one with the,
The red one.
oh, the one under the Pistons one.
Yeah, I ain't
That's
got my
Memphis.
glasses. That's
Yeah, the
ugly
one that's in
too.
the,
That's
yeah, the one in the
hideous.
third row. Yeah, that's Memphis.
That is hideous.
I,
What?
I mean,
The
yeah.
Pistons is kind
Well,
of clean though. I will say that.
yeah.
I would wear that.
The Indy one, I feel like, looks like kind of what they had for the play-in tournament court look last season. That's kind of what the Indy one looks. The Golden State one, I'm not really sure what that is. I feel like that one's a big miss.
Which one is that? Hold on, wait a minute.
That's that's the top right next to the Bulls one.
What are they supposed to be? The Lakers?
I don't. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
What is that?
That's like the most basic one out of them. I like the Magic one, the one that's underneath the Lakers one in the bottom left corner.
That other red one is that one's hard
That's
to
Heat
comprehend
culture.
too.
Yeah, Heat
Of
culture one.
course,
Yeah.
of course. That's why it's hard to comprehend and it looks like that. Heat culture. Whoop de whoop.
Yeah. So I mean, look, if you're watching, would you pick up any of these? What's your favorite one? Obviously, let us know in the comment section because I think Jory and I agree that some of them look all right, some bit of a head scratcher, and I don't know. I'm
Some
interested,
are
I
just
guess, to
hideous.
see how they look on the court. Like
I think the NBA trying to do something to me because I'm like, with the courts being all one color, it messed my head up and made me mad to the point where I didn't want to watch the game anymore. And now with these jerseys, cut it out, bro. I mean, I get
uh,
it.
yeah, Anthony, the Bulls one is like it's white with
It's clean
like a
though.
cream color. Yeah, it's not
And
bad.
some gold in it.
Fifth down, first row. The fifth. Oh, that's the Golden State one, the top
That's
corner.
the that's the I don't know. Now
Especially in fifth
Washington,
down, first
they don't
column.
have a
That's
good
pretty
basketball team, but that I like that jersey. The team
right.
stinks, but that jersey doesn't. Same for
Exactly.
the
I mean,
Pistons.
how many people will
I'm
be
like,
there for
why is
those
it the
games?
bad teams that got the good looking alternate jerseys? Like, what is going on here?
Well, they probably paid more attention to those to try to get people in the arena on those nights.
Get down first row.
Oh, fifth down, not fifth across. Okay, my fault, Anthony. So that's the Lakers one.
Magic.
The,
Oh, the
he's about the
Lakers.
Lakers, fifth down. Yeah, Lake Show, Lakers. Yeah.
Yeah, they could have did something different,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same
The rep,
time, don't do nothing different because you've been different all off season. I'm tired of it. Let's just play basketball.
right. Yes. The Raptors one calls back to the Vince Carter days.
The
I think the
Raptors
Raptors
always
had,
have good jerseys.
yeah, I think the Raptors wearing a 15 jersey in that one. So I think that one's cool.
Utah's jersey is nice.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of looks like the jersey they have now.
Then it's unoriginal and I don't like it. I take that back. Um,
I feel like they have,
because
or
they
maybe
do
I'm
have
thinking of
one
the
that looks
one.
like that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I feel like I could picture Laurie Markkinen in that jersey. Okay. It also goes back to like that logo was first used with Malone and Stockton. I think their color scheme was a little different, but yeah, basically
Every
the same.
every time I look at the Pelicans one, I'm like, they really could have did that with a different type of color. Like
Mm-hmm.
that don't go together.
Yeah.
The green should have been either a little bit brighter and the purple should have been a little bit lighter, if
Yeah.
anything. That just looked like a failed attempt.
Mm-hmm.
That don't look nice at all.
Yeah. Like I said, we'll see when the season gets going. I guess which nights these are used. Although now that I'm looking at it, for some reason the Magic jersey's on here twice, which kind of means somebody's probably left off. And first look at it, I couldn't tell you which team is missing. So yeah, but that's interesting that the Magic are there twice. But yeah, so like I said, NBA season
Is
rolls
it the
around.
Bucks? No, is it the Bucks?
Let's see.
Or is the Bucks up there? You know I ain't
No,
got my
Bucks are
glasses.
next. Yeah, the Bucks are next to the Sixers one.
Y'all, I don't have my glasses. I broke them.
It's all
Clearly
good.
because there's a picture that says Bucks right next to it. That was a not smart moment.
It's all right. Yeah, I'm trying to
The
figure out where the Bucks.
Spurs.
No, no, they're there too. Yeah, I mean, if I looked at it for like
By the
five
end of the
minutes,
show, I'll know. By the
yeah,
end of the show, I will
I'm
figure
sure.
it out.
Yes. All right, so we'll move on to some NFL. Oh, actually, before we get into that game, let me pull this down here really quickly because we wanted to touch on the Bryce Young situation before going into the week 2 review. So, those of you, if you don't know, Bryce Young has been benched by the Carolina Panthers. They're going to start Andy Dalton, which, to be honest with you, I completely missed Andy Dalton was their backup. I kind of thought Andy Dalton was probably out of the league, but he's there. He's going to start this weekend. Now, I guess probably later on when we do our week 3 look ahead, we'll probably talk about them a little bit more. But looking at Bryce Young, his second season in Carolina, 2 games in, being replaced. How do you feel about that?
He is broken. You can look at him and tell he is broken. They broke that man. And they continue to do nothing. Look how many coaches did he go through his first year? 2, right?
Yeah, Reich and the interim guy. Can't remember who he was.
So he's
And
on
then
his
got the
third
third
coach
one
in
now.
2 years.
Yep.
And then you've had different offensive schemes, different things being thrown at you, all while your owner in the front office, they're doing things to actively give you nothing. They trade away your number one wide receiver. They trade away your best defensive asset, which I get it, go get the picks. But they're not necessarily drafting too well with those picks that they have. So I'm like, they're setting this kid up to fail, and this is what you do when you set people up to fail. They're operating, no, not operating like they're a bad franchise. David Tepper has run that organization into the ground. I promise you, Panthers fans would donate to a GoFundMe to pay to get him out of town. They don't like him. He's done absolutely nothing but make everybody look bad associated with the Panthers and make ticket sales plummet. That's what he's done. Panthers tickets are $1.80. I am not lying. It is
I
only
hear
week 2.
you. Yeah.
The fact that they're that low and we got 16 weeks of season left to go, it's gonna be a long year. And until David Tepper realizes that he's the issue, that team will never go anywhere. And Bryce Young and company should be trying to get him out of there.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you. You know, especially with him being in his rookie deal. You know, depending on how Carolina looks with Andy Dalton, if he ends up sitting for an extended period of time, yeah, that's going to look much worse on him. And granted, his rookie season wasn't all that great. You know, a lot of the talk between he and CJ Stroud going into the draft, a lot of people debated whether or not they should have taken Stroud first. Whatever, they decided to take Bryce Young, which, if you look at his career in Alabama, makes a lot of sense why they went that way. I will say I was one of those who thought Stroud would have been better, but I didn't think it was like some wide margin that when they drafted Young, I was like, oh, they're so stupid for that. But once you bring him in, is what you do after that. Because I think the problem with Bryce Young is he's been replaced, and everybody's going to look at the record he's had, the lack of production on the field, and assume he's the one that stinks. Where I could argue that
It's
based on
everybody
the
else.
situation, well, yeah, like based on the situation he's been in, we don't even know what Bryce Young is. Like, do we think if they had fixed the stuff around him and then put him back out there, he would still wouldn't produce? We don't know. If he went to a different team, you know, with a different philosophy and stuff, would he not produce? We have no idea. So some fans and some other teams may look at Bryce Young almost like a bust already, even though I think it'd be premature for that because I don't think it's fair to Bryce Young to judge him off of last season and then 2 games this year. I feel like there's still a prospect in Bryce Young that can be good in this league. You just have to have the right system. And I mean, Anthony brings up a good point. I think players, wide receivers, don't want to play for the Panthers.
And why should they?
Yeah.
Why should anybody want to play for the Panthers? Period. They're not going anywhere. You know they're a bad team. You know the owner is horrible. You know that what they've done to that young quarterback that they have. They've broken
Mhm.
his spirits. Because even last year, yeah, it wasn't all great, but he had moments where you could see where that's where they drafted him number one for. He had his moments last year. He looked better last year than he did this year. And that I can't. So I don't necessarily put all of it on Bryce. Now Bryce is gonna have to put some of it on him. But when
Mhm.
you're being outward openly set up to fail by an organization that is dysfunctional and as impatient as the Panthers, I don't blame people for not wanting to play for him. He can't help. He probably don't want to even play for him anymore. He can't help the fact that he was drafted there,
Mhm.
even though he knew he was gonna get drafted there.
Yeah.
Hindsight, he probably wish he went Eli Manning on him and said, "I'm not playing."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I I mean, I don't know. Maybe he still has some hope of it
I
working in
think he's
Carolina.
damaged goods, but not to the
Yeah.
point of beyond repair.
Right.
Now, if he stays in Carolina for much longer, it probably will be beyond repair because they're not the environment that can repair anything. They're just as broken as he is. How are they gonna repair him?
Yeah. Because I mean, look. I think ESPN or somebody put up a graphic about how Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold have done so much better
They're
after
balling.
leaving Carolina. So I think this weekend what's going to be important is watching Andy Dalton play. If the Panthers look like a better team with Andy Dalton, I think obviously that's going to shift a lot of the conversation to, so why couldn't Bryce Young do it? If Andy Dalton struggles, I think some people may realize, kind of like what Anthony is alluded to and you as well, it's probably not Bryce Young necessarily. Because like you said, some of that you do have to put on the quarterback and the player. But it's obviously not the same talent that he had in Alabama. I mean, not a lot of teams can necessarily put together a team like Alabama can because of recruiting and everything like that. But I will see. Like I hope this isn't something that just lingers and we see him bouncing around and all this kind of stuff, or we see him mired as a backup quarterback already. I'd like to see him get an actual opportunity, and maybe after a couple of weeks, because they have a Canales down there coaching now, maybe Canales can establish something, and then you could bring Bryce Young back into it, and maybe you're better off. I just don't know. And look, the Tepper part of the equation does muck it up a lot because that guy is impatient. He's irrational. He may look to trade Bryce Young, which might actually end up working out to be in Bryce Young's favor. But we'll see.
Look, if they do want to trade him, I know I got at least a sixth round and a seventh round pick. I got a quarterback whisperer of a coach.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into that dynamic later. But
Yeah.
look, I'll take him. I got an offensive line that can protect him.
Okay. That was gonna kind of be my I guess final question on Bryce Young.
If Will decides he doesn't want to act right and stop doing the dumb stuff and get that bonehead stuff out of his system, like
Mm-hmm.
yesterday, because it's so frustrating to watch.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, knowing that he's going through his growing pains. This is a new system, new head coach. It takes time for and he has new weapons, so it's gonna take time for everything to gel.
Yep.
But at the same time, he be making self-sabotaging plays, and I don't be liking that, and it be frustrating. But he don't do the same dumb thing twice.
Hmm.
So it's more positive than negative at the same time. The negative is just so outwardly negative that it's like, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No. It. Yeah. Because that's kind of where I thought I was thinking about with Bryce Young. It's like he's looked poor in the pocket. He's looked poor on some of these throws. And is it just a product of being in Carolina, or was he a bit overrated coming out of Alabama? And unless you get, three great wide receivers around him and a great running back and a great offensive line, is he going to struggle in this league? Because how many teams have necessarily all of those in place already?
Not a
So
lot.
that's right. So that's going to be the thing. Like, does he need the perfect situation in a league that's not perfect, or is this just him learning? And could be a bigger question about starting certain rookies right away. Maybe he would have benefited from sitting behind Andy Dalton last year and then this year being his first year. Maybe that would have worked out better for him.
Right. Houston and people like
This
to compare it. Don't
this
start
is
that. We're not gonna go there. We are
but
not
that
gonna.
that is a narrative about Alabama
It's a
quarterbacks.
narrative. I get it, but we're not gonna discuss that right now.
Right.
I'll probably touch on that in a few minutes anyway.
Okay.
But because it triggered me a little bit. Um, what was I saying? I forgot what I was talking about.
Well, I mean, 'cause I brought up the if he should have sat last year and then start this year, if he would have been
Oh
better off
yeah,
for that.
because people like to compare his. It's always going to be a comparison to C.J. Stroud. I'm like, when Bryce Young got there, they had nothing at the Panthers. When
Mm-hmm.
C.J. Stroud got to Houston, they at least had some talent. Some of those pieces they didn't need to move. They had some type of talent. They were at least a little competitive.
Mm-hmm.
They just got stuck with Davis Mills as a quarterback. I'm like
Yeah.
that. You can't compare apples to oranges.
True.
As far as the
And
Alabama quarterback things,
yeah.
I don't think. I mean, Jalen's not overrated, but he is on the line of he is on the cusp of having that tag on him too. And don't sit here and say I can't claim Jalen Hurts because he has a degree from Alabama. He graduated from Alabama. He went to Alabama for like what, 3 to 4 years? Sooner fans get on my
That's
nerve
right.
when they
He did.
start
He
that.
did finish his career in Oklahoma. Yeah.
Sooner fans really aggravate me when they do that. Because the reason why they have Jalen, they got Jalen Hurts was primarily because Nick Saban told Jalen to go to Oklahoma so he can develop as a quarterback. So they should be saying thank you instead of trying to claim him and say his time at Alabama didn't do much, huh? Did you not see what he did his first? Well, he didn't even start that game when USC came out the tunnel looking stupid and got dog walked 52-6.
Mm-hmm.
Bateman started, and then Jalen Hurts won that job.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I
He lost his
don't with
job to
him.
he lost his job to
He lost
Tua,
his
right?
job to Tua,
Yeah.
but that was like 3 years down the line. So I'm like, he's at the place where we could say, depending on what this season is, it's borderline with him.
Mm-hmm.
Tua, he just got drafted in a place where if you don't experience cold weather like that, you're never gonna get used to playing in it.
Right.
Like that's like with him, and that's my problem with me going up north as well. I don't. It's usually not. It don't get at anything up north of Kentucky. It gets too cold in the months of December or January or February for me. I'm not used to that type of cold. The winters down here are a little bit milder,
Hmm.
and I'm never going to get used to that type of cold because I wasn't born then.
True.
Same principle. He's probably never going to get used to playing in the cold because let's be completely honest, there's no way you can replicate freezing cold temperatures when it's 65 to 70 degrees outside. No way.
Yeah.
He can't help the fact that he was drafted to Miami. I But his arm strength, it was never really there. He's always been kind of a noodle arm, but his
Hmm.
accuracy and before he had that hip injury, he could move. That's probably what got him up there. I Right now, I would give him the overrated.
Okay.
Mac was ruined. I'm not blaming Mac for his situation. He was ruined.
Hmm.
He did have moments where he did not play well, but when you give this man a defensive coordinator and a special teams coach and put them together as an offensive coordinator, you're setting that man up for failure. He was ruined.
Hmm.
And depending on if Trevor Lawrence decides to continue to be an overrated, who knows what, and if something happens to him, Mac might get another chance to shine. I've been high on Mac Jones. I've seen potential in Mac Jones. I'm a
Hmm.
Mac Jones person. I feel like that was just a soliloquy of me making excuses for Alabama quarterbacks, but you can take it how it is.
No, I mean it's like I said, it's been a narrative for a while. Some colleges it just goes with it, you know, because even before that, it's like with McElroy and AJ McCarron and all these other guys who
Now
had
they
really
stunk.
great right, but they had pretty good college careers and then they got to the NFL. So I mean, it usually just takes one quarterback to be a Super Bowl champion before that stigma kind of goes away. But we'll see. We'll see because there's still time for Bryce Young. There's still time for Mac Jones. There's still time with Tua and all these guys. If those three can somehow carve out a good NFL career, then yeah,
If Tua can
the
stay
Alabama
healthy and
quarterback thing
upright
will, yeah, because he's probably in
and
the best situation offensively, Tua. Because,
put that padded thing on top of his helmet and stop playing around and make better
yeah,
decisions when you're on the move, I feel like Tua wouldn't even be in this situation if he had make if he could make better decisions when he's outside the pocket and he has to run.
yeah,
Like,
I think
don't
you're
dive into somebody's knee. That is
right.
textbook on how you start seeing numbers and tasting colors. That's textbook.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Which I mean, look, we'll see even with Tua once the neurologist and all that get involved, what happens there. But I do agree, like the guardian cap has to be a thing for him. Anthony did ask a question, I guess, to wrap up the Bryce Young part of it, because he's assuming the Panthers think this year have the first pick. What position should they draft? He says wide receiver. Now we
If
know a
they
lot of
don't go
NFL
get a
teams in terms of,
lineman,
yes. I'm about to say
if they
drafting a
don't
wide receiver number one doesn't normally go well.
they don't go get a lineman, because what's good of drafting a receiver if you don't have enough time to get the ball to him?
Right.
Which, if you watch the Panthers, ain't Bryce just scrambling for his life? Like,
Yeah.
it's snap and there's somebody in the backfield. And
Yeah.
it's like that consistently. I'm not getting a wide receiver. I can get luck up on a wide receiver in the second or third round. Sometimes even in the
Yes.
fifth or sixth round, depending on what you luck up on. First round, it's either if they want to replace him, get another quarterback or a tackle. Go get a tackle or a guard. Because that's what they
Yeah.
need. Because he has no time in back there. No time.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah,
offensive line couldn't even stop my chihuahua. Like, come on.
right. And if you think about the first pick, there's only a couple of positions that have a lot of value when you're drafting number one. It's either, like you said, an elite left tackle and a really good prospect at quarterback and like pass rusher. Those like the three you kind of get away with drafting first off overall. And because we're talking about Bryce Young, or like you said, if they decide to go in a different direction, then that would have to lead them down that path. If they wanted a new quarterback, then number one pick next year, you take quarterback and then hopefully do better putting pieces around them. If Bryce Young is the guy and you want to give him a second chance, go tackle. Like you said, wide receiver, second round, you can do that. Fourth round, like if the talent evaluation's there, you can find good wide receivers later in the draft. But I think the focus should be that O line. We see a lot of these teams that play well, they have the pieces in the trenches, defensive line, offensive line. If you don't have anything good there, usually you're not winning at a high level. But
What's the
Carolina is
main
clearly
reason
not
why?
a. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just about to say, what's the main reason why Baltimore's 0-2?
Exactly. O line issues. Yeah, that's a good point. But Carolina is not going to be a 1 year fix. Like it,
Mm-mm.
Tepper or anybody in that building thinks that, then yeah, Bryce Young, everybody else be like, no, we can't stay here. Like this has to be next year. There should be progress. Like if they win a couple of games with him, fine. Then the next year, bring in more talent and go at it that way. Unfortunately, it could be something where you're in Bryce's fourth year. They're still kind of rebuilding and developing. But by then, you should be like, oh, at least they're good. These couple of spots. And we just need a couple. Because right now, it's a team that doesn't have a lot of talent on it. That's just the problem with Carolina.
They're a talentless void.
Right. Like I said,
Like, who's he
unless
supposed
Andy
to
Dalton goes in and
trust?
unless unless Andy Dalton plays this weekend and they all of a sudden look like a good team, I doubt that. But if that happens, then the conversation would have to change around Carolina.
Adam Thielen? Yeah, 5 years ago. Like, come on. They do have a receiver that they just drafted, the country
Look,
boy.
yeah, look at yeah, look at
I do like him. At the same time, you have no offensive line. So how you gonna get the ball to him?
right.
They should have let. That's why I didn't want them to bench him, then bench Bryce, because I feel like if it was anybody that he was gonna build a rapport with, it should have been with Leggett,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a potential QB wide receiver one type of connection, and then they could try to figure it out. But they want to pull the plug, like impatient and dysfunctional franchises do.
Yeah. Yep. So I mean, this is something that we'll definitely revisit over the next coming weeks. I know that we also want to talk about some of these weird fans because I know that you saw some stories about that caught your attention and you wanted to bring on camera. So I guess we'll talk about that now. So I guess what was it that you saw that you wanted to bring to the table?
To the one fan, and I know exactly which fan that did it. It's funny. Twitter's a small place.
Mm-hmm.
Who decided to leak Will Levis's number, and then he got a whole bunch of hate mail, hate messages and stuff like that, and threats and whatnot. Do you not realize that these people are human beings? That nobody should have to go through that? Do you not realize that that's a crime? Doxing is a crime, and it's lame. Like, stop being weird. Just because he made a bonehead play does not mean you leak his number so people can send him stuff. And it's not even going that far. That's not even where the buck is stopping. Dan Campbell had to move because somebody leaked his address.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is wrong with y'all? Like, what is wrong with y'all? What on God's green earth would possess y'all to thinking that leaking somebody's address is ever okay? Like, are your brain cells not working? Do you have a half a brain cell? Because common sense tells you not to do that. Because you wouldn't want anybody leaking your address to anybody. You wouldn't want anybody leaking your number to anybody so they can blow up your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, the world has been, these people are so entitled. Some of these people are so entitled and they feel like they can do whatever they want without consequence. That's not okay. Let people's private lives continue to be private lives. Why are we leaking addresses? Unless something has been wrong to you. Like if it's an address of a place that did something to you or made you sick or whatnot, of course, tell it. Tell the world. We want to know. But it's leaking somebody's personal address that has nothing to do with you other than they're the football coach of my favorite team. You realize how stupid that sounds? And do you realize how stupid you're going to sound in the court of law with that as a defense? Let's not be an airhead. Let's have some common sense.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I definitely agree with you. Like it's a situation where it's very simple. Nothing that ever happens on a football field, a basketball court, wherever, should impact you so much that you feel like it's okay to expose their personal life or expose where they live or anything like that. Nothing should ever come to that. And some of these fans who, I guess, fly off the handle or just overreact to every game, every play. I get it. You're fans. Look, football and basketball, all that. I'm a big fan of it, but I can also separate the game from that experience to regular life. Like, if you went up and asked Will Levis, he wouldn't sit there and be like, yeah, I made that boneheaded play on purpose. Like, no. In the heat of battle, quick judgment. He decided to make a play. It didn't work. Fine. He obviously goes to the sideline. He gets to look at the pictures and all this kind of stuff. He gets
He got
reminded
a
for a little
good,
bit.
he got cussed out by Callahan
Yeah.
on the sideline with, what the F are you doing? We all saw
Yep.
that one. I'm like, and people are
That's
mad about him
that's
about that.
Callahan's job. That's his job, though. That's what Callahan's supposed to do. You sitting on your couch, where do you have the right to do that? And look, you can voice your opinion on social media because that's your right. But yeah, there's an obvious line that everybody knows is there. It's just that some people want to take it too far, and then when it comes back at them, they're the first ones to try to act like they didn't do anything wrong when they knew what they were doing. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like, fans need to chill out with a lot of this because I get it. You want your team to win, but at the end of
I'm
the
like,
day, it's
had it
not
been
that deep.
me, look, you leaked my address and I got that type of money, I'm hiring a PI and I'm pressing charges. I'm gonna find out who did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because a lot of these people aren't necessarily the most secure or the brightest. Like, a lot of times, if you want to find out who did it, they leave a lot of crumbs around for
Hmm.
professionals to find them. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll
That's
see what
what I
happens.
would do.
Hopefully, I mean, and just like they feel like they have every right to uh, put that out there, the athlete or coach, whatever you do that to, has every right to come after you in a way that you're
You
not
don't like
necessarily
it.
gonna like. Yeah. So, but okay. I mean, felt like that was a good little way to transition into the NFL. So week two. So for week two, because week three has already begun, we're going to touch on like a couple of the big results that caught our attention. The first one being the Saints continue their hot start to the season, blowing out the Cowboys 44-19. They look like a juggernaut offense, at least through two games. I mean, side note, Derek Carr, I believe, was fined
He
for
got a fine for
congestion.
that.
But if you ask Derek Carr, probably worth it because they got the win. But taking a look at the Cowboys side of this, what is more troubling for them? The fact that their defense can't stop anybody, or that seemingly this offense can't really score with anybody?
Now, I watched that game with a smile on my face because I'm like, oh. And I was pleasantly surprised because New Orleans had me thinking it was going to be a fluke last week.
Yeah.
I'm like, or maybe I had too much confidence in the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, oh, the Cowboys are doing this in week 2.
Yep.
We usually see this in week 12.
True.
I when I watched the game, it's easy to say Dak Prescott didn't play well. He was bad. He threw 2 picks. He wasn't the problem that game because the first 6 possessions, the Saints went 6 for 6 for touchdowns.
Right.
I mean, when I say the Cowboys couldn't stop a nosebleed, they couldn't catch a cold, they couldn't do nothing. And when your defense, and when they're getting burnt, and it's not like they're tough touchdowns, they're getting burnt. One for 50 something yards, one for 70 something yards, one for this, one for that. They made Derek Carr look like Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
And when have we ever made that comparison?
True.
I thought that secondary was going to get better because they had Trayvon Diggs back. It looks a little bad now. It looks a little worse now. And whoever Wilson that the secondary person named Wilson is horrible. He stinks. They couldn't run the ball either.
Yeah.
Now, I
Really
don't know
good.
if that was because of the offensive line having a whole bunch of rookies,
Yeah.
or is the Saints defensive line it still got it. But I'm more concerned about the defense because then you have Micah and his little loudmouth self talking about we gotta try harder and blah blah blah, blah and putting his teammates on blast. Folio, didn't just last year when somebody called you out for your podcast, didn't you get in your feelings saying, I wish you would have just kept that in house and blah, 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 blah. And then you sit here and get on the microphone saying that they're not trying hard enough and they don't want it as hard as you and blah, 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 just running your mouth just to talk. This is why I don't like Micah now. He talked too
Mhm.
much.
Yeah.
He talked way too much for somebody when it matters most, just shrinks and doesn't show up.
No. Yeah. I feel like when I see the Cowboys play and what we're seeing teams do against them defensively, I mean, obviously the Browns in week 1 didn't really test them that much because they had their own issues, but the Saints, it almost made it look like the Cowboys have a speed issue on defense, and that's not something you necessarily get better at during the season, because if you can't keep up with guys, you just can't keep up with them. And now it's going to be, can you scheme around that and all this kind of stuff? And look, they face a team in Baltimore that may not test them much through the air, but they're going to try to test them physically, running and all that kind of stuff. I kind of have questions whether or not Dallas wants to deal with that. Like Dallas is in a situation we know the pressures of the Cowboys being perennial Super Bowl, contenders to their fans' eyes and to certain people that are on TV. That if they go ahead and get blown out by Baltimore, it's going to turn into, threat level like 300 down there of whether or not their season just completely goes belly up. And we know Jerry as well. Jerry loves attention. He doesn't necessarily like bad attention. And we know with each loss, he'll become more and more like prominent. Like he'll be talking a lot more, which I think a lot of times gets them even more trouble. But yeah, I just didn't like even the Cleveland win. Like I wasn't necessarily impressed with what Dallas did in that game. I just thought it was more about Cleveland being a mess that week. So they just back it up with another reason to not believe in them. Those of us who aren't going to pick them to win a Super Bowl or anything like that because we've seen their recent playoff history. Like you said, this looks like the same team that just doesn't put it together when you want them to. So it is only week 2. Like they can obviously bounce back from that. Like if we're here next week and they're coming off of like a 20-point win against Baltimore, maybe the conversation changes a little bit. But for right now, they don't look like they're on Philly's level, even though Philly hasn't been a perfect team either. I mean, they're lucky that the Giants are still a mess. Washington, I think, is still
Figuring it
trying to
out.
figure out. Yeah, they're trying to figure out who they are. But Dallas, it just looks like Dallas is closer to those two than they are to Philly right now. And for Cowboys fans, that's going to be a problem.
At least for Philly, they lost because of a drop.
Yeah,
Dallas couldn't force a drop if they tried. Like what?
yeah,
That's the reason why that's the difference right there. The fact that they showed this week 2, and if they don't win, no, I will say because you made a point about their next game being Baltimore, because I don't think they're gonna stop that run game either.
right.
That's the type of game that if Baltimore is coached properly, which I do have my doubts about,
Mm-hmm.
um, I cannot lie, I have my doubts about. You try to run the ball this game. This
Yes.
is the game. Knowing that the Cowboys are thin at defensive tackle.
Yep.
If they don't do that and Baltimore loses this game, I'm not even gonna stud Dallas. I'm gonna just laugh at Baltimore. Because you're 0-3 now. And I hope it happened. I hope it happened. But Dallas might find another way to lose next week. So
Right. Yeah. And look, if they lose to Baltimore with Baltimore running the ball down their throat, now it's going to be they couldn't keep up with the speed in the passing game from New Orleans, and now they couldn't keep up with the physicality of a Baltimore team. Now you have a real problem in Dallas. So Anthony says it, and we both agree. Let Derrick Henry eat. I mean, we'll touch on Baltimore here in a second, but we'll see
because
if
he's
Dallas
starving
turns
now.
around. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, might as well transition to this one. So Baltimore, I'm sure you guys saw it. 10-point lead late, managed to lose against the Raiders and Gardner Minshew 26-23. If you look at the numbers, the Raiders were one-dimensional because the Raiders couldn't run the ball. So Gardner Minshew was dropping back and dissecting the Ravens defense in the fourth quarter. He targeted Devontae Adams. Big shock there, the number one wide receiver, and Devontae Adams went off. He targeted Brock Bowers a lot. Big surprise. They drafted him pretty high. They have high hopes for him. Gardner Minshew featured those two, and it seemed like Baltimore couldn't do a thing about it. So I think the same kind of question here. Is this Baltimore defense going to be what holds Baltimore back, or as Anthony put, and you talked about the Derrick Henry part of this, is the offense just not operating probably the smartest way that they should be right now? Because I don't get how you're up 10. You're a team that's supposed to be built on run the ball, clock control, and defense, and you lose that 10-point lead at home to a Raiders team. Like that that just doesn't compute for me. So, where do you see Baltimore's biggest issue is right now?
I mean, they paying Derrick Henry just to sit on the sideline and be like, "What's up?" Because why are you paying $30 million for a running back and you're not going to use him in the fourth quarter? He has three fourth quarter touches, three. It's week three. That is
Yeah.
pathetic. And if you look at these games, and no, actually, I had to pull up some of my stats from my article just so I can make sense on my point. This has been the Baltimore Ravens MO or modus operandi, however you want to say it. It's been their whole thing. Blowing a fourth quarter lead. And it's for different reasons almost each time. That means it's usually the coaching. Because why are you not running the ball with a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter? That's common sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand the offensive line. It is what it is. You keep playing Falele or Fa, however you pronounce that man's name, and he stinks. Why is Ben Cleveland not playing? I don't think he can be that much worse. From what I know, Ben Cleveland was very solid on the line. So I'm very confused about that part. And that's where I was going with that. The Ravens, since 2020, they've lost 11 games when they have had a 7+ point lead going into the fourth quarter. They've lost 11 games.
That's crazy.
That's why I said that's their MO, because I'm like, that's how
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna have a long season because they're back to doing this. Now last year they took a little bit of a break. I had a little bit of a confidence in them. He's old. He's old. He's been there how long? Old. That's his problem. But I had a little bit of confidence last year that they weren't going to blow a lead. Now, was I wrong? Yes. But they didn't show it that much during the season. They're starting week two blowing leads. And it's usually because of the same reasons. Now, how many times do we need to see Marlon Humphrey get burnt?
Yeah. Look, I said about that secondary. He's a guy you can throw on. A lot of people get caught up in Baltimore having this great defense. Yes, their front seven has normally been pretty good, but in the
Their
secondary,
secondary is trash.
yeah, and they always have a guy like Humphrey, whether it's him, Marcus Peters, these ultra physical corners that if the quarterback gets time, those are the guys you target. I like Kyle Hamilton in the secondary. I like his game. But Humphrey, yeah, I feel like if I'm Dallas and I get into passing situations, I'm looking his way. Because I pull up their numbers and a lot of their numbers are interesting. So this like the game actually I'll say that. I'll say that from when we do picks or whatever. But like the offense and the defensive splits between Baltimore and Dallas are very interesting. And I feel like that's where we're going to see, especially the two coaches in Harbaugh and McCarthy. McCarthy more so is a guy that probably needs this win, but you and I have been saying we need to start looking at Harbaugh, and I feel like this is a game that those two coaches are going to be on full display to see which one of them screws this up for their team.
And they should be because they both get penalized a lot, and you cannot win a game if you get penalized 11 times for 109 yards.
Yeah.
Now, week one, last week was week two, duh. But
Yeah.
week one, we saw them get penalized for the exact same penalty about five, six different times with Ronnie Staley in them dumb, illegal formations. You would have thought he would have learned the first two times, but he didn't. You either coach that or you condone it. You're not going to win very many games if you're going to give up 100 yards and three first downs by penalty. And
Yep.
both Baltimore and Dallas, they got that bad. So they better find a way to keep the refs' flags in their pocket
Yep.
and stop
Yeah.
being undisciplined.
Yep.
Because that gets you
That's the
beat
thing.
too.
Yep. That's what I mean. That's what hurt him in that playoff game against the Chiefs. They kept the late hits and all that kind of stuff and extending drives out. Like they're not a team that you want playing from behind too much, which is
I'm like,
kind of the weird part that they lose these leads late because that's what they're supposed to be good at. Like if you're down 2-3 scores in Lamar at quarterback, a lot of teams aren't necessarily scared by his arm. It's the fact that when they have the lead, you can do play action pass to make it, throw the slants and over the middle to Andrews. You can hand the ball off. You can have them keep it. All that, like their offense is more diverse in that, but for some reason they're not good at holding leads.
yeah, and
So
if you keep doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different outcome, it's insanity. How many times do they have to keep doing the exact same thing over and over again, getting called for the same things, losing leads for the exact same reasons for them to get it? What is That's why I look at Harbaugh so funny. Because I'm like, you are so stubborn and you refuse to change, and you get this team in a chokehold with doing the same exact thing over and over and over again. You fail to adjust when you need to. When you should be running the ball, you decide you want to make Lamar Jackson Patrick Mahomes. And we see what happens when you do that. You make bad decisions. You don't get your team ready to play disciplined football and clean and sound football. They should have won this game.
mm-hmm.
Despite how destructive and disruptive Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby were, they should have won that game.
Yep.
Despite that, the fact that they lost that game was because of the coach and the defense.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, look, that's pretty much right there in a nutshell, kind of what Baltimore's shortcomings have been in the postseason. So we'll definitely see, how the game plays out. I mean, here in a little bit, we'll be doing our picks. We'll see, where you and I are on that game. Let's go ahead to the last one from week two. The Jets go to Tennessee, get the 24-17 win. I think with Tennessee, as you mentioned, boneheaded play from Will Levis, which happened in week one as well, contributed to the Titans losing. I feel like, obviously, with Titans being your team and everything, I feel like for those of us who may not be Titans fans who watch from the outside looking in, the improvements are there. The direction they're going in seems to be the right direction. It's just now on the quarterback to limit the boneheaded plays. I mean, you would love for him to eliminate them completely, but not have them happen at the absolute worst time. So, looking at and I know you mentioned a little earlier the Callahan aspect of it, and I'm sure you'll touch on that again. For somebody who didn't know much about him, I could see the appeal into why they went out and got him. The dad there as well with the offensive line, which what I was saying was like them, the trajectory on them is definitely pointing up. And I know that you and I both picked them as playoff teams this season. After 2 games, I'm not necessarily going to be ready to change that in any way, but we'll see. We'll see the continued development of Will Levis. But like I said, I know you wanted to talk about your team for a little bit here, so go ahead.
Like that game, I got mad. I will
Mm-hmm.
be completely honest. I got mad because I Titans fans were like they're just getting mad at Will, and they rightfully they should have because that fumble thing, maneuver thing that he did, that was dumb.
Mm-hmm.
That deserved the Callahan. What are you doing? Because what was that? That was a bonehead play. Now, granted, when it comes to Will Levis, when I'm monitoring him, I'm giving him a little bit of grace because there's a lot of factors to consider. This is his second head coach, his second offensive scheme. He
Mm-hmm.
has new weapons around him. His offensive line is relatively new at time at positions. It might take them a little bit to get going, which I'm actually fine with how they've been handling themselves. I'm fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
Dumb penalty there, dumb penalty from the offensive line every once in a while, but they'll get it together. Again, we have Bill Callahan. He's whipping them into shape. Nicholas Petit Frere needs to worry about the actual football game on the field and stop worrying about fantasy football with his gambling self, sir,
Mm-hmm.
instead of being a weak link of my offensive line and allowing 9 pressures.
Right.
We shouldn't have to target you.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not too that the decision making when he does bonehead stuff. I just want him to. I want somebody to hit him upside his head with a book that says, "Don't make a bad situation worse." Because that's what he does when he does that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What if he was going to throw the ball or get rid of it towards the sideline? Actually, in that situation, take the sack, bro. Just go ahead and go down. You don't need to be and doing dumb stuff. And it wasn't just him that did dumb stuff that game too. They don't get to 24 points if Jeffrey Simmons does not get a dumb roughing the passer penalty that he knows better not to get.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get to that. This was the bonehead. This was the bonehead game. Will has about 4 games of this type of foolishness left in me before I get really irritated because I'm being a little bit patient. Callahan is being patient. He's ripping into him.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't think Will couldn't take it, he wouldn't do it. That's what these people on that's what these talking heads in the media fail to realize. He wouldn't do it if he didn't think he wasn't built enough to take it. Will is a meathead. Sometimes you gotta call a meathead out to get it through his thick skull.
Mm-hmm.
Will is the type of player that if you see in his face that he's finna make a dumb decision. You see it in his eyes that he's fighting with it. And I'm trying to get that out of him. Callahan is trying to get that out of him. And I've heard a couple of irresponsibly dumb takes about how Callahan's seat can be on fire and da 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 da. This is his first year. Relax. This is not the Panthers organization. The Titans do not move like the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like when they fired Vrabel. They wanted to go offensive coach. You see what the offense can look like at times when we're not doing dumb stuff.
Yep.
I like that. I like transparency instead of we got to coach better, we got to play better. I like the fact that my coach will stand in the media and say, Will can't be doing that dumb stuff. I like that. I like having an unarchaic team,
Hmm.
something that's a little bit more modern. They're not gonna sit here and fire this man after 1 year because of Levis making a whole bunch of dumb stuff, doing dumb stuff in the first half of football games when they've made the moves that they've made tailored around him. Let's be honest. I get we're gonna think that they tailored it for Will Levis. No, Callahan wanted them players on his team. So to sit here and say that he could be on the hot seat after one season is absolutely asinine and uninformed
Hmm.
and irresponsible. We don't. That's that's how dysfunctional organizations move. We
Yeah.
might the football team might be a little unlucky, but we're not dysfunctional as an organization.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, look, the one thing I'll add on, like I said before we move on, with Will, he's still young, and when I said like the trajectory is going in the right direction, with the bad, and don't get me wrong, when he messes up, that's what a lot of people focus on. One, because they haven't won a game this season, so it's easier for them to point those out. But looking outside of that, he has made some good plays. I will say the throw he made to Calvin Ridley in that Jets game down the sideline is a throw that not a lot of quarterbacks would have even tried because Ridley was covered by Sauce Gardner. A lot of quarterbacks in this league don't want to throw at Sauce Gardner. He had to fit it in over Sauce and in front of the safety that was closing in on Ridley. And he basically put the ball in the perfect position and really had to make a great one-handed catch for a touchdown. So he can do that. Now, yes, the boneheaded play is what overshadowed it because it's it's like a recurring thing with him. But I do think that he he hasn't played like terribly in these first 2 weeks. So I feel like he's gonna have a good opportunity this weekend. Hey, Trey Jones, what's going on? I mean, Packers fans saying the Packers defense will give him a few more turnovers tomorrow. We're about to get into picks, so I mean, we'll definitely see how you and I feel that game will go.
Malik is gonna
But look,
start, so that's their biggest problem. Malik is gonna start.
and with that, you kind of know Green Bay's going to look to ground and pound with Jacobs and all that. So we'll see what the Titans defense, which through the first two games, you gotta like what you see on that side of the ball. So Levis just ups his game a little bit. The Titans will be fine. He
Who
needs an O
needs an
line.
O line? They just fixed it. The O
I,
line is fine.
he might be talking about his
The
Packers.
Packers. Oh, I'm like, yeah, the O line. We have two high draft picks. Cushenberry's
Or
a
he might
pretty
be he might be
decent.
talking about the Titans. Trajan, who are you talking about? Who that needs an O line? Um, but yeah, like you said, they got Bill Callahan, who's a offensive line guru, and you already see the improvements this far. Oh, he was on the Titans. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the Titans O line is better this
Yeah,
year
they're
than they
fine.
were last year.
They're good for maybe a penalty or two a game for false start or something like that. But it's not. They're fine. JC and Peter Skoronsky on the left side,
Mm-hmm.
along with Cushenberry as the center, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
They're fine. That left side of that line is fine. The right side, on the other hand, that's where that problem is. That's where I get so mad at Nicholas Petit Frere.
Right.
The right side of the line. Yeah, it
So
just
you just saying he's putting pressure a lot. Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah,
that's kind of like what you're saying. The right side of the line needs to get better.
to get it together. Because that's where the issue is. And within time, I feel like with Bill Callahan getting this offensive line together, they just need some more time to gel. It's a new offensive system. That's why I'm really not getting mad at the issues that we have right now. It's a
Hmm.
lot better than where we were last year. That offensive line is holding a lot better, even with the issues that we have on the right side. It's holding a lot better than it was last year. I'm
Yeah,
seeing the improvement. That's why I'm not mad.
yeah.
I
I
see
mean,
improvement.
every new line needs a couple of weeks to get it together. And like I said, Callahan will get them. Like they'll probably be a line that 3 weeks from now could be very good. Right now, they're going through the growing pains of learning the new players that they infused in there, and them getting their experience and all that down. So yeah, like I said, I know you're not going to change your mind about them being a playoff team. I'm not changing mine after these first two games. I still think they could be a wild card team. All right, we got picks. So we missed our show last week, so we didn't get to do week two. But after week one, Jory has a 1 game lead. As you are 10-5, I went 9-6. So for us, we pick straight up, just picking winners. So let's go ahead and go through this week three slate. I mean, some of these games we probably don't have to give too much of an explanation, but we'll see where it goes. So the first game, well, hold on, I gotta make sure I write these down because those of you
Not the
tuning
only
in, we will
one.
we will post our picks on the Integrity Sports Network page, so then you guys can kind of keep track with us as well. But Giants travel to the Browns up in Cleveland. I mean, 1 o'clock start. How do you see this going? Giants have their issues at quarterback with Daniel Jones. Could be a Drew Lock appearance made in this game. I wouldn't be surprised by it. You have the Browns, who played better last week than week one. So can they continue that against a Giants team? Who do you
Yeah,
have winning this
they
game?
they still let the Jaguars come back on them. So,
I mean, like I said, they played better. It wasn't necessarily
the
great all
best.
around. They played better.
Trajan, you're hilarious because that is hilarious. That's probably how that game is gonna go. By the way, but I'm gonna go Browns
Okay.
because I like their defense better. I feel like defense will win this game.
Okay. And I'll agree with you on this one. I'm gonna take the Browns as well. I as long as Daniel Jones is starting for the Giants, I just feel like their offense is going to be a mess. And I know last week they scored 3 touchdowns, but then had no kicker, so they weren't able to convert anything, and they ended up losing to a team that only kicked field goals while scoring 3 touchdowns. This was probably the most Giants thing that you could come
That's
up
a
with
Giants way to
this
lose.
season. Right. Like you score 3 touchdowns, the other team can only kick 7 field goals, and you managed to lose because your kicker got hurt. But uh, I mean, we'll see. We'll see if the Giants can make it competitive and for Daniel Jones' sake get a win. Because I feel like if they lose this one in the fashion that they've been losing so far, look for Drew Lock. That's all I'll say.
Or
All
look
right,
for an
next one.
interim head coach.
I mean, Dayball, yeah. I feel like that's why Dayball probably won't wait too long this year making the switch because he's trying to keep his job. Um, Second game. This is one you probably will pay attention to as it's in your division. You have the Bears and Caleb Williams, and their slow start, traveling to Indy to face Anthony Richardson, who so far has shown he can throw the deep ball, but nothing else. So, how do we have this one going?
The Colts can't stop the run.
Mm-hmm.
That's their issue. They can't stop anything. And Anthony Richardson is not right now. He's not a good quarterback. He's a boomer bust quarterback, but he's not a consistently good quarterback. If the Bears run the ball and don't get cute, they win the game. If they start getting cute, But that's also depending on Eberflus being a good head coach too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This is a I'm on slugfest watch with this one.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I hate the Colts, so the Bears. Sometimes it goes to that.
I understand. Uh, because look, Trajan, I definitely agree with you that the Bears went up. They got DeAndre Swift. They have Khalil Herbert as well. They just saw what the Packers did to the Colts. Seems pretty simple what they should do. I just hope there isn't this pressure on them to try to make Caleb Williams look good because he was the number one pick. Because I feel like if you try to do that, it's probably going to be more weeks of kind of poor play.
Yeah, because Caleb Williams has been unimpressive. The only reason why they have the one win that they have is
Yeah.
because Will Levis did some dumb stuff. And it wasn't even Caleb Williams that helped them win that game. It was their special teams.
Mm-hmm. So I will say, because of Anthony Richardson's inability to throw in the intermediate and short, I'm going to assume Eberflus, being a defensive coach, will be smart enough to be like, "Hey, nothing deep down the field. Make them throw underneath and be sure tackling." I will say the Bears win as well, and I'm hoping, wink, wink, I have DeAndre Swift on one of my fantasy teams. He has a Josh Jacobs like day, so I'll take the Bears as well. Third one, we got Texans Vikings. The Texans are coming off not a masterpiece necessarily win over the Bears, but they went to 2-0. They got it done. The Vikings have been one of the surprise teams of the season so far, with Sam Darnold looking really good at the quarterback position. So one of these teams will get their first loss of the season. Obviously, if they tie, that would be the difference. But who finds themselves 3-0 after this matchup between the Texans and the Vikings? Also, shout out to Brian Flores with that Vikings defense. The man's putting in work again. But
Yeah,
who
this
do you
is
have?
a trap game, but um, I don't know because the Texans have looked very beatable. They haven't looked as smooth as they looked last year. And
Mm-hmm.
like you just said, Sam Darnold has been playing quite surprisingly well. And Brian Flores has that. If you hear barking, I'm sorry. Um,
You're good. You're good.
and Brian Flores is gonna blitz the crap out of somebody. So this is gonna be a very good game.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the the Colts, the Texans are gonna edge it out.
Okay. All right. So you got the Texans. So I do think this is the first game we will differ on. I feel like Brian Flores will have the defense ready. He will have a plan in place to face CJ Stroud. And now you have to worry about Joe Mixon, who's had pretty good games on the ground for Houston, which I think has helped them out a lot. Well, those of you tuning in, that's our friend Bella of the show. Um, but I just think the Vikings will get it done. I think Brian Flores will have another masterful game plan for that Vikings defense. And I think Sam Darnold, especially with it being at home in Minnesota, will continue to make plays. I do agree, with the chat that Houston defensively will pose some issues for them, but I feel like the Vikings win this one. Kind of a close battle and a really good, as Trey just said, Bella's coming at me with, yeah, so see, she's still going with it. Um, I just have a feeling that the Vikings get this one done, that they take it. Like I said, part of this is me really wanting Brian Flores to do well this season. He did well last year. Offseason wasn't the kindest to him, but so far He's doing really well with Minnesota, and I'm high on the Texans and what they're doing as well. So I don't think it's a game where either team gets embarrassed. I mean, this could technically be the game of the 1 o'clock window. But yeah, let's keep moving on here. I feel like some of these might go a little bit quicker with because as Anthony lets us know that Colorado's losing, which hey, that's Colorado.
What's
Yeah,
new?
whatever. Exactly. Yeah, we all know what Colorado's about. All right, so we have the Eagles and the Saints. Eagles are trying to bounce back after the loss to the Falcons, while the Saints are riding this wave of explosive offense. So can they continue that against an Eagles defense that, like I said, didn't end the best way against the Falcons? Or will the Eagles turn it around and slow down the momentum going on down in New Orleans with the Saints? So who do you see winning this one?
The Eagles have given me no confidence to say that they're going to stop anything. They started it in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
You saw how they ended last year.
Yep.
And then they ended the game week 2. The reason why they lost, because the defense couldn't stop anything if they tried.
Yep.
Until they actually stop somebody, I'm not gonna believe. Once somebody shows you who they are, believe them. But
Okay.
if those corners get and safeties get beat like how
Mm-hmm.
the Saints did Dallas last week, and just have wide open, just a ton of acreage, the Eagles gonna have a long day. If they can't get to the pass, if they make Derek Carr look like Tom Brady again, they're gonna have a long day. Because
Sounds like you're convincing yourself
if
of.
yeah, I feel like this could be the upset of the week. Forget it. I'll just pick the Saints, and I hate them. Oh, AJ Brown not playing, so they're definitely not winning. Saints.
Yeah, I mean the Saints are a 2.5 point favorite, but I mean you get 3 for being the home team. So according to Vegas, this is pretty much a up in the air type of game. I mean that this is a tough one. You know, even with AJ Brown not playing, Saquon's played well outside of that one drop. Devontae Smith has played pretty well. Like Philly still has the weapons to get it done in New Orleans. I don't know. I feel like this is going to be the good part of Derek Carr's season. I guess they're going to keep it going. I mean, the Eagles' defense actually overall is one of the worst in the league, so it's probably not the best opponent to face right now. And they're 25th against the pass. So the numbers themselves aren't really in Philly's favor. So I think with you, I feel like this is a game that if the Saints are legit and this early start is legit, this is the game that they should win at home. So I'll take the Saints as well. All right, next up, this might be the ugliest game of the day. Chargers and Steelers. We know the Chargers, you got Jim Harbaugh, football, run, physical. Although Quentin Johnson had 2 touchdown catches last week. The Steelers, we know Justin Fields will start once again. They're all about TJ Watt wrecking you defensively and stopping your offense, while Justin Fields just doesn't make any mistakes. So who do you have winning that matchup?
First of all, the Chargers ain't gonna be able to run the ball.
True.
I'm gonna tell them that just flat out, because TJ Watt is not gonna let that happen. Um, if Justin Herbert plays mistake-free football and don't do dumb stuff, I've seen
Mm-hmm.
Justin Herbert make some questionable throws. At the same time, with Justin Fields, who's kept the ball out of harm's way,
Mm-hmm.
who, even though last week his stat line looked basic, if they don't have all those penalties, he has a touchdown and at least 100 more yards.
Right.
That was the penalty game for them. But Hmm. This could be an ugly game.
And Anthony is asking that because Herbert this week in practice has missed. I think he missed Wednesday's practice with an ankle issue. We also kind of know Herbert tends to play through injury.
Yeah,
But
whether that's advised or not, he likes to play through stuff.
hmm
But sometimes that affects him and it alters the state of a game. So with that knowing now that I'm refreshed, he's not 100%. I'm definitely going to pick the Steelers to win this game.
okay, all right. So you got the Steelers. I mean, for me, like I said, the reason why I think it could be might be the ugliest game of the weekend. Both offenses are near the bottom, so it should be low scoring. It might be which defense can create the first mistake. I feel like you should probably look at the Steelers as the more capable defense in that. But part of me just has this feeling that because Harbaugh is just more competent than Brandon Staley, and you're seeing that so far. I mean, the Herbert aspect of it is different. Obviously, if Herbert doesn't play, I would feel differently about it. But I think I'm gonna go with the Chargers in this one. And like I said, very low scoring, like hard hitting. Like it's gonna be entertaining to watch. It'll just be ugly in terms of if you want scoring. This was probably not the game for you. So I'll go Chargers. All right. I might have to go like a little rapid fire here with some of these. I don't know. All right, so Broncos and the Bucks. Bo Nix, another opportunity for him to get his first win. The Bucks are. I mean, look, I just have to set it up a little bit. The Bucks, Baker Mayfield's playing really well, and the Bucks are trying to keep pace. I guess with the Falcons team that just won, it looks like it might be a two-team race between those two as well. The Saints, we'll give the Saints their credit as well, but Bucks trying to keep up with those other two teams in the NFC South early on in the season. So who do you have winning this? I'm
The
guessing by your head
Bucks.
shake, you got the Bucks. Yeah, I have the Bucks as well. Give me Baker over Bo Nix any day. I feel like it's just going to come down to quarterback play.
Because why are you making your rookie quarterback throw the ball 40 times?
Mm-hmm.
What's the
I
point of
don't.
doing that?
I don't understand that either.
Sean Payton is cooked, and I
Yep.
don't like that man.
I, I know. I completely understand. Next up, this is a game that really matters to you. Packers going to Tennessee for the Titans. You have Malik Willis, former Titan, starting against the new guy in town of Will Levis. Titans come off the loss, obviously over the Jets, and then the Packers come off the win where they showed their dominance with running the ball against the Colts. So who do you have winning this one?
Look, they're not doing that. What they did versus the Colts, they're not doing that on my defense.
Okay.
They're not going to sit here and drag their feet through the mud and break their foot off in my defense's butt. They're not doing that. um, but a part of my heart literally just wants to pick against the Titans until they win a game.
Okay.
But if I know Malik Willis is 9 times out of 10 going to start, he's going to start the game off with a sack.
Okay.
I know that's a fact. He's going to get one. And I know I got a few people on that defensive line that can get to the quarterback. I have a great play caller and schemer as well. I that's always been a winnable game as well. Winnable game. There's so many
Mm-hmm.
schemes that you can do when you have a defensive line that got 3 players that can get home. There's only so much out scheming of that you can do. What are you gonna do? double team both 93. That's his number. Yeah, 93 and 98, and let Arden Key or somebody or Harold Landry come blitz free up the middle or something like that. I It's gonna be tougher than what you're talking about, Trajan. That defense is legit.
I mean, he is a Packers fan, so he's
I
gonna
get
obviously
y'all got
try
a good
to.
offensive line, but that defense is legit.
I mean, I know you're taking the Titans, so obviously I wanted to
Look,
let you plead their case.
I'm not scared of the Packers. And the 49ers, you could say that their defense may look a little different as well. I'm confident in my ability of my defense to get home to the quarterback. I'm confident in my defensive coordinator's ability. And it's not just the defensive line that you got to worry about. You also got to worry about the secondary. It's not just the front four. You got Sneed. You got what's his face? Awuzie, McCreary. There's a few of them. The defense is fine. Will Levis and his dumb stuff is gonna be where the problem is, because that is what stalls offenses, doing
Mhm.
dumb stuff, boneheaded stuff. When we're either in the opponent's red zone or in our own, dumb stuff. That's the topic of that. That is probably where that this game is gonna be at. Yeah.
Okay.
But I want to say the Packers are gonna win this game just to make put a little fire under my Titans' butt. But I'm not gonna do that.
Okay. All right. Um. Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be an interesting game. You know, Trajan, I definitely give LaFleur a lot of credit for what he's done with the Packers so far. Once again, I think because I have the Titans as a playoff team, I feel like I'm going to go with them to win this. I also think I feel like Will Levis is going to want to try to outshine Malik Willis in this game. The last thing Will Levis needs is the Packers to go to Tennessee with Malik Willis and come out of that game with a win. That's the last thing he needs right now. I feel like he'll play a better game, and I understand the Packers defense is obviously a different challenge for them, but I just have the feeling that the Titans get this one done, so I'll take the Titans as well. Panthers Raiders, I feel like we're both taking the Raiders. I mean, it's
Hmm.
the Panthers. Like we don't need to really go too much into that. Oh, what's going on, Sophie? I see over on Twitch. What's up? What's up? Um, no, we have been on here every week actually, and we have other shows that are on Twitch as well. So yes, this is not our first stream, but I do see your chats. Sorry, I skipped over them. I'm not skipped over them, but I just didn't see them right away. But appreciate you tuning in. So we both got the Raiders. All right, next Dolphins Seahawks. Dolphins will have Skylar Thompson at quarterback. Tua obviously on IR. We got the Seahawks with Mike McDonald going over there, trying to go 3-0, be one of these rookie head coaches that are still undefeated. Who wins this one?
Give me Seattle.
Okay. I agree with you. I'm going to go with Seattle. Until Skylar Thompson shows me that he can win, even though I know he played well in that playoff game against Buffalo, but yeah, I think the Seahawks are the better team right now. Lions and the Cardinals. Lions haven't really been up to people's expectation early on this season, while the Cardinals have been another surprise team. Kyler Murray found Marvin Harrison this past weekend, so that's a connection we expect to see more from. So who do you have winning this game?
Until the Cardinals can show me they can play two complete halves
Mm-hmm.
instead of one good half and another half of what is that, I'm gonna pick the Lions.
Okay. I have the Cardinals in this one. I kind of think the Cards might be legit this year. I don't. I feel like Kyler Murray has a guy Marvin Harrison that he can connect with. I think that continues in this one, so I'll take the Cardinals. All right, we got Ravens, Cowboys. We talked about these two teams earlier. You guys already heard us break them both down. So who gets back to winning football in this game?
I gotta be quick about this one. The Cowboys, because I just can't sit here and
Okay.
I can't sit here. I can't do it.
So you got the Ravens in 0-3 land. Ooh, that's gonna be dicey for them. Uh, I mean, I have said that not out of the realm of possibility that the Ravens could go 0-5. I do think that they go to Dallas, maybe on the road, it works for them. I think the Ravens get this one. And you know how hard that is for me to say, but I'll take the Ravens in this one. Maybe I'm more of a Cowboys hater than a Ravens hater. I don't know. We'll see. Uh,
I hope they
next up,
tie.
that would be kind of hilarious for our purposes. That would be funny. Um, next up, two teams that are kind of beat up, 49ers and the Rams. So who can kind of navigate those injuries and get the win in this one?
The 49ers. The
Okay.
Rams have given me nothing to show. Nothing. They don't have a defense. They're still reeling from the Aaron Donald thing. They have a big hole to replace with him.
Hmm.
Nah.
I agree. I'll take the 49ers. I think they still have Brandon Ayuk. They still have pieces on that side of the ball. Jordan Mason's played well in replacing CMC. I think the Rams are. I know it's early in the season, but the Rams are kind of on thin ice. A lot of people thought they could be really good this year. It's not looking too pretty right now.
Once I saw that defense, I took that back. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
No, 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 no.
Yes. That's going to be the biggest issue for them. Next up, Chiefs and the Falcons. Falcons riding high off of the win over the Eagles, like we said earlier. The Chiefs get a tough, hard fought win over the Bengals. So, how do you see this one going? Kirk Cousins versus Pat Mahomes.
Look, the Chiefs should win this game, but Patrick Mahomes and some of his decision making lately has not been impressive to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if he does that versus this Falcons team that has a very opportunistic secondary with those safeties, they can get beat. But I'm also not going to be that fool and pick the Falcons to win a game like that. And I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
Okay.
I know better. I know better.
My time in Atlanta, I've learned that as well. I agree. I'm going to take the Chiefs. Part of me thinks this could be an Xavier worthy type of game. This would be the type of game where he goes off in like different aspects of their offense. So I agree. I'll take the Chiefs in this one.
Great for
This week we
me
do
because
have
I
two.
got him on my team.
That's right, you do. Yes. Yeah. I mean, hey, we'll see. Next week we'll see if you're celebrating an Xavier worthy big day or not. This week we have two Monday night games. So that's just to let you guys know in the chat. First, we got Jags and the Bills. Jags, I don't know, trying to figure it out with Trevor Lawrence and crew. The Bills, maybe surprising some. Josh Allen's played really well, even though you probably couldn't name a lot of his targets. So, how do you see this one go? I mean, this one does matter to you as well. Jags in your division, and the Bills are in mine, but you know, we already know how the Patriots are right now. But how do you see this one going?
That sounds like a snooze fest. Um, I bet the
I
Jags
think the
miss
I think
Ridley
the Bills
now.
are I think the Bills are kind of fun to watch right now.
They are. They are. Josh Allen has been a pleasant surprise, probably because he can't afford to be reckless with the football right now, and he knows that.
Yep.
And the Jaguars, I bet they miss Calvin Ridley now. I know they miss him.
Mm-hmm.
And too bad. I like him. Bills.
I agree.
They're
I got
playing better.
yeah. James Cook had a they're involving the running backs more. If you don't have him on your fantasy team, if he's available, Shakir seems like a good pickup because he's kind of Josh Allen's favorite target right now. Last game, Commanders Bengals. Some might say, why are the Commanders on a Monday night? Look, they got Jane Daniels. There was some hype behind that. Bengals, you got Joe Burrow. Uh, I don't think I think T Higgins might play. I don't know what's going on with that situation, but I know he's hurt, but I think he might play. Any reason to
Secondary is
think
trash for the
true. I
Commanders.
mean, yes, that's what I say. Any reason to think Jaden Daniels and that Commanders team can get the win in Cincinnati?
The, what would have to happen is
Oh,
the
thanks, Anthony.
defense find
Higgins
Higgins
is
is playing. Oh yeah, the Commanders don't stand a chance because they don't have the secondary. The
mm-hmm,
secondary is trash. So the only reason if since he lose this game is going to say a lot more about Cincinnati than it do about the Commanders.
mm-hmm. All right,
I'm a
I agree.
I'm
I
gonna
got the
pick the Bengals because I like what they have more, even though they look slow now, but and they're coming off of a very close loss.
mm-hmm.
If the Commanders don't tighten up, they're gonna get drugged down the field just like Dallas was from the
Yeah,
Saints.
yep. Yeah, I think you mentioned the secondary stinks. Expect a comeback performance of sorts of retro Joe Burrow and the Bengals in this one. I think this one's going to be an easy win for the Commanders. So once again, we went through the week 3 slate. I will post our picks up a little bit later. So if you want to revisit them on the Integrity Sports Network page, make sure you go there and check that out. Also, it's in the description, the link to our Tumblr, where Jory and myself have some articles up and everything like that. So if you want some more content from us, make sure you go there and check it out. I promise you'll enjoy yourself. Um, but we have come to the end of our show and everything like that. All of our topics. Trey just said, always a great show. Definitely appreciate you, Trajan. We
Appreciate
try
it.
to we definitely try to entertain you guys for a little bit. Um, I mean, anything you want to add before we get out of here?
Um, New video over on Jory Sports Stories tomorrow, and over on Apple Music, Spotify, because I'm getting that stuff back together as well. And the blog, just like how we have a Passion and Precision blog, there's a Jory Sports Stories blog. So more of my week 2 observations should be up on there shortly.
Yep. Okay. I mean, same thing. Check out the blog. I have one as well for my show, Chomping at the Bit. Um, Also,
Trajan, you
more
want to put
other
money
shows
on it?
here. Uh, there we go. I mean, the challenge has been thrown at you there, Trajan. Um, yes, you can expect to see videos from me as well over on Chomp of the Bit. Uh, we actually have snap counts tomorrow where we
Oh
will,
yeah,
yeah,
I'll be
we'll
back.
talk about, yeah, we'll be back on snap counts tomorrow with Dylan, should be on with us. And we'll talk about like the 1 o'clock action and everything like that. So if you want more of that, more of this, we can definitely tune in then. Well, there you go. We'll use it as bragging rights. So next week, Trade, you got to make sure you come back. And if your team wins, you can brag about it. If they lose, you can hear Jory brag about it. Um, but yeah, so this has been Passion and Precision. Like, subscribe, follow, share all the good stuff. Integrity Sports Network. There goes Bella, who you heard from a little earlier. Hey, Bella. So like I said, you'll catch us here. Snap counts tomorrow. Make sure you come back. But till next week, for Jory and myself, this is Passion and Precision. We're out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. All right.